Fire and Darkness, The Brotherhoods of Death, Part 2, by Inia Gorming. Evidence of the Morag Tong's expertise in assassination seems scarcely necessary. The few instances of someone escaping a murder attempt by them are always remarkable and rare, proving that they were and are patient, capable murderers who use their tools well. A fragment of a letter found among the effects of a well-known armorer has been sealed in our vaults for some time. It was likely penned by an unknown Tong assassin, ordering weapons for his order, and offers some illumination into what they looked for in their blades, as well as the mention of Vonura, the island where the Tong sent its agents in retirement. I congratulate you on your artistry, and the balance and heft of your daggers. The knife blade is whisper thin, elegantly wrought, but impractical. It must have a bolder edge, for arteries, when cut, have a tendency to self-seal, preventing adequate blood loss. I will be leaving Vonura in 2 weeks' time to inspect your new tools, hoping they will be more satisfactory. The Morag Tong spread quietly throughout Tamriel in the early years of the Second Era, worshipping Mephala and Sissis with blood as they had always done. When the Morag Tong assassinated the Emperor Raman in the year 2920 of the First Era and his successor potentate Verzidu Shay in the 324th year of the Second Era, the assassins so long in the shadows were suddenly thrust into the light. They had become brazen, drunk with murder, literally painting the words Morag Tong on the wall in the potentate's blood. The Morag Tong was instantly and unanimously outlawed in all corners of Tamriel, with the exception of its home province of Morrowind. There they continued to operate with the blessings of the houses, apparently cutting off all contact with the satellite brothers to the west. There they continue their quasi-legal existence, accepting black writs and murdering with impunity. Most scholars believe that the birth of the Dark Brotherhood, the secular, murder-for-profit order of assassins, was a result of a religious schism in the Morag Tong. Given the secrecy of both cults, it is difficult to divine the exact nature of it, but certain logical assumptions can be made. In order to exist, the Morag Tong must have appealed to the highest power in Morrowind, which at that time, the Second Era, could only have been the tribunal of Almalexia, Thothersil, and Vivec. Mephala, whom the Tong worshipped with Thysis, was said to have been the anticipation of Vivec. Is it not logical to assume that in exchange for toleration of their continued existence, the Tong would have ceased their worship of Mephala in exchange for the worship of Vivec? The Morag Tong continues, as we know, to worship Thysis. The Dark Brotherhood is not considered a religious order by most, merely a secular organization, offering murder for gold. I have seen, however, proof positive in the form of writs to the Brotherhood that Thysis is still revered above all. So where, the reader asks, is the cause for the schism? How could a silent war have begun when both groups are so close? Both assassins' guilds, after all, worship Thysis, and yet a figure emerges from history who should give those with this assumption pause. The Night Mother. Who the Night Mother is, where she came from, what her functions are, no one knows. Karlovac Townway, in his generally well-researched historical fiction 2920, the last year of the First Era, tries to make her the leader of the Morag Tong, but she is never historically associated with the Tong, only the Dark Brotherhood. The Night Mother, my dear friend, is Mephala. The Dark Brotherhood of the West, unfettered by the orders of the tribunal, continue to worship Mephala. They may not call her by her name, but the Daedra of murder, sex, and secrets is their leader still. And they did not, and still do not, to this day, forgive their brethren for casting her aside. The cobbler who met his end in the Second Era, who saw no end in the war between the Brotherhood and the Tong was correct. In the shadows of the Empire, the Brothers of Death remain locked in combat, and they will likely remain that way forever.